Good afternoon, everyone. Today we have Madeline Zook with NetSertive on the call today, and our topic is Let's Be Frank, what everyone else is doing in FranDev marketing. Today's webinar is available for CFE credits. If you're attending today's webinar for CFE credits, we want to welcome you this afternoon. If you're not currently an IFPG member, we'd also like to invite you for a free tour of our site and all of the features we offer. We routinely offer our members ongoing educational sessions just like this one. You can contact our members director, Hira, for more information. All lines will be muted for this call. Please enter all questions and comments into the questions box, and we will address them after the presentation. If you need anything during the call, please send me a chat using the chat box. And with that, I am going to pass it to you, Madeline.
Hi, everyone. I know some of you are still filtering in. Some of you might have been on a couple of my FranDev webinars before, but we will go ahead and get into it. Thank you, Greta. So I can't see who's on here like a traditional Zoom, and I can't see the chat. So if you guys have questions for me, you can just shoot the chat over and Greta will read it to me, or you can just put it in, even if it's just a comment, in the questions box, and then I will be able to see that live. All right, so we will go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, yes, my name is Madeline Zook. I am a former director of FranDev for what is now Threshold Brands. They have 12 different brands, all in the home services space. Myself and my husband own 4 different brands. We have upwards of 20 to, however you carve up territory, 20 to 30 locations in the Philly area. And right now I'm the director of marketing for NetSertive, which is a franchise supplier. We do localized digital marketing, paid media, organic SEO, web solutions, franchise development, specifically for franchise brands, as well as multi-location businesses. We're very large in the auto space as well. You can see a couple of our stats here, franchise supplier, Inc. Power Partner. So very excited to be able to see this side of franchising, but all in all, pretty much a child of franchising. And if there's a question you have, specifically regarding FranDev or anything in between, I can probably help answer that or know someone who can. So thank you, IFPG, for having me. So we will go ahead and get into this. What I like to say, starting off with FranDev, is I host a podcast, which I'm sure many of you have either been on or listened to, called The Art of Franchise Marketing. Basically, when I was in your shoes on your brand side, I was paying thousands of dollars to test different channels to drive leads. I had CEOs asking me, well, what is this person doing? What is this competitor doing? Going to conferences, not really getting any true nuggets of information. And I wanted to get out with that completely old school idea. We preach community to our franchisees, and that's what really we should be doing as franchisors, suppliers, brokers, is having this community. So I talk to brands daily basis, probably, have connections with over 200 because of the podcast. So I know what people are doing in FranDev, and I want to share it. And the first thing I want to start off with is there is no silver bullet. There's no silver bullet out there that's happening that you don't know about, that's causing these brands to sell hundreds of locations, and you're saying, what the hell, what about me? So we're going to cover all of that from start to finish, what the landscape looks like now. So first and foremost is, your foundations. What do you need to even get started in franchise development? The first and foremost is you need a buttoned up FDD, you need your offer, your mission, a CRM, and have a complete understanding of your numbers. I think a lot of times emerging brands get super excited. Maybe they sign on with an FSO, maybe they go broker right out of the gate, and they start selling these suckers fast and furious to potentially really great owners. But the problem is, if you don't have a complete understanding of your numbers in terms of, what is the lifetime of a franchisee and their royalties going to bring in? Where are these leads going? What is the nurture campaign? What are you offering them truly? Not just, be your own boss, but what else comes from that? You know, and then also, you know, listing these things in your FDD, making sure everything is complete. You're going to have nightmares down the road. So you certainly want to make sure that once you go into franchise development, you have this first bullet tied down. Now, if you don't know your numbers because you don't have the data to prove out how, you know, over a decade how much a franchisee could bring in, do some competitor analysis. There's plenty of competing brands that you can ask in your industry that's like, what should I expect here? What are some average numbers that they would be happy to share? And if you're saying, yeah, right, Maddie, they're not going to pick up my call, you can call me, you can email me, and I will connect you with someone who will. You know, that is the purpose of our community. So that is something that can help as well. The second is having a dedicated team, tasks, events, and timelines. This I cannot stress enough for even the most established brands, because franchise development, no matter how much we promote that this is, you know, it drives the growth of the brand and the business and it brings in the big dollars. Royalties are great, but you only get royalties when you have royalties to bring in. A lot of times it goes deprioritized compared to the consumer marketing. So when you want to do Fran Dev, you want to make sure that there is, if you don't have someone that can do it regularly, like I was completely devoted to franchise development marketing, not, I wasn't a salesperson, then you want to make sure whoever on your team is responsible for it, it's not an add-on, it is a vertical of their job, you know, requirement and role. This means that they are, you know, writing out all the whatever contracts with lead portals, brokers. They're making sure that your ads are optimized. They're updating copy. They're updating the FDD numbers on your website, that sort of thing, so that you're constantly staying on top of it. Because as much as franchise development changes, it never really changes. But you do need to make sure that you're not just setting it and forgetting it, because usually teams do that and then they start bitching at the end of the year that they didn't get enough leads or that they're not closing enough, and it's always marketing's fault. It's always franchise development's fault. We know that, guys. It's either there wasn't enough leads, the leads weren't qualified, you know, whatever it is. You don't want to look back and think that someone wasn't paying enough attention and that's the reason why you didn't hit any goals. So the next is, when I say, you know, have your website buttoned up, you need to have a section of your website that is completely dedicated to franchise development. If you want to go to Menenkild's, I think it's Menenkild's franchise or MenenkildsFranchising.com, MadeProFranchising.com or MadeProFranchise.com. Those are two websites I worked on when I was at Threshold, and you can kind of see, especially if you go to MadePro.com or MadeProFranchise.com, you can see the difference in branding. It's similar, but it definitely has a different message, because again, what's appealing to our target customers at MadePro, a home cleaning, you know, getting your time back, is much different from us asking, hey, we need $150,000 from you so you can start a cleaning business. So that is something you want to think about when you're doing your franchise development web creative, is that, well, yes, it is the same brand and it should be streamlined. The message and the creative is going to be altered a little bit, not the mission, but the message. Because again, we're not asking people to buy a service or a product, we're asking people to invest their life savings. So it should have a little bit of a different feel. Another kind of insider tip I like to tell brands, now that I'm not siloed into just one myself, is that it should have a path to conversion. And what I mean by that is when someone enters your website and they're thinking, do I want to buy this franchise? It should answer the questions they have up front. It doesn't need to give them all the information that is just copy heavy, that they're just not going to read. It's going to go a lot of scrolls, especially if they're on mobile. You know, if you're on mobile, we're going 1-2 thumb scrolls. That's it. So what we do is, you know, you have a homepage that summarizes basically everything that's on your website. Very simple. If they're only ever going to go to your front page, they get at least what they need to know, and there's a couple calls to action to request info or learn more. After that, and you can kind of see it in the screenshot here, is okay, why should I enter this industry? So we start with why home cleaning, why exterior cleaning, why automotive, and you know, the pros and maybe some cons there, to be very transparent. After they're all bought in, they're like, okay, cool. But okay, so now you're talking about why your brand? Why your brand out of every other brand in this industry? Why is it great? Why might it fit you? And then, obviously all of these pages have calls to action, but gives you a little bit more of an in-depth feel of who the brand is, who you are. So then they're saying, all right, you guys sound cool. How much do you cost? So now we're going to a cost comparison, maybe a pricing page, where you can kind of cut out, you can either list your prices, or not your prices, but your franchise fees. You can list averages on what your fees might be, even in symbols, lots of dollars, little dollars, compared to other industries. There's a lot of different ways to show a cost comparison, maybe your initial investment cost breakdown, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about on madeprofranchise.com. So, giving them a feel for what these prices look like, because you guys know if you're starting in franchising, you can go from 10 million buy-in to 75,000. So you have to remember these people probably have no friggin' clue. And then, a secret sauce is adding, here are owners. This is where you're going to put your testimonials, your videos. And as much as it seems like just daunting, thick video content, it does the best on every single franchise I've ever worked with. Because once they get to this page, they're going, wait, all right, I'm thinking that's it, that's doable. That makes sense. I like how it breaks down. But are they telling the truth? And now they're hearing from real people what they really think. And that kind of seals the deal to the conversion page. So when you're thinking of a website, you're thinking of maybe you only have a standalone page on your website. Think of it in a way where you're coming in blind, you're telling a story of why franchise all the way down to your happy owners, and then they're converting. That is, something that I preach a lot and we've seen a lot of success with. Next is, so you've got all that set up, great. Your next is that you're gonna need your Google page set up, you're gonna need your social media, and you're gonna need reviews. So what I mean by this is make sure there's no outstanding reviews on the franchise side. I think with MadePro, there was something like terriblefranchisors.com. And if you typed in MadePro franchise, something came up from a disgruntled franchisee like 5 years prior. So we had our PR team take care of that. It was taken down. Make sure there's nothing outstanding like that, or maybe there's Glassdoor, reviews from a disgruntled home office employee. Nothing blaring that's going to come up high on SEO when people start searching for your Fran Dev. Make sure your social media handles are claimed. Now, there's two ways to go about this. You can go about this with just combine your whole brand into one kind of handle, or you can have, they have 5-star franchising, and then 5-star franchising brands. However you want to do it, just make sure you have your social media somewhere that's going to be locked in where you're going to run advertisements through. Same thing with your Google page. And then we come to our collateral, where you're going to need some nice crisp images, you're going to need some nice crisp video. Some ebooks still do very, very well. This is one we just did with ZBart on the about the franchise. And I preach this until the cows come home, that while I understand there is something to be said for homegrown video, people having that owner feel and taking their own videos, people don't want to see that shit when they're talking about spending thousands and thousands of dollars with you. They want to see high brand awareness. They want to see professionally done, because this is where they're spending their money. They're spending their money on a brand that's nationally known, that has dollars to back them, that they're saying has this incredible branding. So instead of sitting down and having your CEO be filmed by his executive assistant on his iPhone 10 that has a crack in the screen, I'm speaking from experience, spend the money to have a professional video done. There are different, it doesn't have to be $80,000, but please just make a note that this needs to look professional. This needs to have that national, international brand feel. That's what the owners, your potential owners want to see. That's what's going to resonate with them, because again, national branding. That's what they're thinking of first when they come out of the gate thinking of franchising. And then lastly, on your foundations, make sure you have some validations. I get a lot of brands of, well, we're a new brand and people are still trying to figure it out. Bullshit. Okay, you can still get the people that first bought into your brand, talking about why did they decide to buy in? They're still, they're not even in their first year. You're a brand new brand, but why did they trust you? Why do they like this brand? All the way, obviously, through your established franchises. If you can't get validations, you got problems. You got bigger problems than Fran Dev. And your Fran Dev will fail time and time again if you don't have validations. People, this is the, if we could just push money into validations, all of our problems would be solved. So please make sure that you do have that franchisee success and trust in order to, close these deals and move people through the pipeline. Franchisee satisfaction is the most important. And another trick with validations, which a lot of established franchisors know, is that you can give kind of a code word. So maybe you have 10 franchisees that have agreed to do validations, or you said you've given their information out for it. Say, oh, your code word is ZBART 12 this month. That way you can kind of be protected from any sort of secret shoppers or your competitors potentially calling in to get a feel for how your ops are going. All right. So now I've talked your ear off about that. We're now going to go into marketing. So here's what you want. And I got on a call a couple days ago with a franchise. It was supposed to be a sales call for NetSertive, and my nanny was like, "Oh my God, did you fire someone? You were like yelling at this guy." I was a little bit of a heated debate because I know a lot of you feel strongly about things that I'm saying. And that's fine. You may have your opinions. I'm telling you what works. This works whether you like it or not. Google ads, that's going to be your biggest thing. And here's why I say it. A lot of times people say, oh, I don't get anything from Google. Or I'm not getting the qualified leads from Google. You have to be where people are. People are on the internet and people are searching. And here's the thing. Even if you're like, nah, people don't search for us that much, or we don't have that big a budget to spend, your competitors are. So even if you decide, I'm not going to do it and I'm going to put my money somewhere else, your competitors are going to go into Google and they can compete on your brand name. So they can compete on Maddie Park franchise. And even though I'm not buying there, I'm not there, I'm bowing out gracefully from Google, anybody who might be searching for a Maddie Park franchise is now going to see my competitor's ad come up under that keyword and be like, oh, wait, I didn't know. Who's this person? I didn't know about this person. Are they affiliated? This looks better. I'm going to click on them. So then any of your potential interest that's coming from maybe some other brand awareness stuff that you've put out there, your current franchisees, people looking you up, is going to go to your competitor. So you do need to put a portion of your budget towards this Google pay per click. Now, expert tip is that you need to be careful with your keywords. If you start bidding on keywords that's best franchise to own, top franchise for 2024, those keywords are really effing expensive because everyone's competing on them. Those are going to be anywhere between $150 to $300 a click, and that's not what you want. You don't want those people. You want people that are looking for best home cleaning franchise to own. Why open a maid franchise? Why open a QSR restaurant? So you want to get more targeted. One, because the clicks are less expensive, and two, because that's when you're going to get the more interested qualified candidates. So while it might look like less volume, because of course the top franchise for 2024 is getting 24,000 clicks a day, one, it's probably going to be a waste of your budget because you might get 2 of those clicks from a highly competitive term and spend $600. The other lesser keywords in comparison are still qualified people, just probably in a more targeted space and more affordable for you. So that's something I like to coach on too. 2 is social ads. And I say social, and I mean Instagram and Facebook. And I live, love LinkedIn. I'm on that thing like 24 hours a day. But right now it doesn't work for Fran Dev, and I'm going to tell you why. Because their display advertisements are not up to par, and they do not get the social click that Instagram and Facebook does. Sure, if you are willing to pay a SDR to go in and manually really dig out candidates, that's going to work, but that takes time. If you're looking for something to set up a campaign, set it and forget it, LinkedIn is not it. It's minimum $10 a day. And while you believe that that's where people are looking for new careers, they're in corporate America, they make all this money, people are not on LinkedIn to buy a franchise yet. Is it coming? I hope so. But that's not it yet. And it's the same kind of thing I say for people saying, well, I'm putting all my money into Pinterest. That's where I want to be. That's where the stay-at-home moms are that have blah, blah, that are looking to buy my service, my craft, whatever. People aren't on Pinterest to buy shit. They're on Pinterest to look at shit. So it's kind of that sort of situation. The same thing with Facebook and Instagram, but same thing I've preached for the last 5-10 years is that it's continuing to evolve as a selling platform. First, we started off with nothing. Then we started off with very cheap items. Then it kind of moved up to, reselling. Now we're kind of in the space where people are comfortable buying from things on Facebook. The advertisement's taken off. You could potentially find a car on Facebook. So now we're getting there. You're starting to see more real estate. And then it's obviously going to gradually get into business opportunities and investments. It's going to just build its trust over time. So while Facebook and Instagram might not be there yet for a franchise investment, people are. So what I say is you don't want to put an in-portal lead system in. What you want to do is have a very specific, very copy-driven ad. And you can email me after, and I swear this is not a sales pitch. I can show you the kind of copy and creative that works for a franchise advertisement. And then we sending them to our landing page that's custom crafted to tell a little bit of the stories that we talked about from slide 1 to convert people. So you need a high converting landing page coming from your social. Same thing with your Google, but primarily your social. You don't want to just send them to a homepage of a website. They're going to get lost in the sauce. You're sending to a high converting page, and that's how you're getting social media to work. Off of that, we're doing retargeting. So how many times you search for something and then it pops up for you again, and we're over the, oh my God, it's following me around. Like, yeah, we know that. We know things follow you around now. It just is what it is. So now I know if I type in something, I don't have my credit card on me, I know I'm probably going to see it again in 2 or 3 days, maybe after I see it for the 4th time. I'm bottle feeding my baby at 3 a.m. and I'm buying it. So the retargeting really, really helps for the brand awareness, the number of clicks. Nowadays, they're saying you need to see something between 7 and 10 times to get that first yes, which is that first click, let alone purchase. And the same thing is going to be true for them giving you their information for a franchise. They need to see you a couple times to do that. It is not a one and done thing by any means. The second, or the last part of tier 1 is lead portals. Now, before you guys go ham on me with lead portals, this is why they work. 1, they have a huge SEO pull. When people are starting to get into franchising, thinking about it, they're typing in franchising, they're seeing Franchise Gator, Biz Buy Sell, FBR, IFA, and they're starting to look through the list there. There are a couple ways to approach lead portals. 1, you can just say, F it. My salespeople like volume. I'm going to give them a $2,000 a month budget. We're going to get 450 leads from it. They're in charge of combing through and finding a diamond in the rough there. Or you can say, I'm going to give them a small budget and, be very on top of them about it. So, with lead portals, they're hoping you set it and forget it. They're hoping we're going to max out their budget. They're going to get most of their leads. A lot of them are going to be duds, not my problem. But if you push them on it, if you're saying, hey, this is unqualified, these person didn't say they signed up, they will credit you for those leads. If you say, hey, I'm not even hitting my cap, boom, all of a sudden they press some buttons on their end, and then you're seeing a lot of traction again. So they have a lot more control in the back end than they let on, than they show you. So you definitely want to stay on top of them. So you could also say, again, I digress, you can go on and say, I'm going to do a small portion of my lead portals. Sure, maybe I won't get anyone qualified from this, but I'm going to get what's called the halo effect. I have tested this with probably $50,000 on and off for multiple years at Threshold brands, so across multiple brands. And what we saw was when we turned lead portals off, our organic traffic and our Google ad traffic went way down, took a big hit. So what we were realizing was that when we were on with lead portals, people were seeing us and then going and typing in our website themselves. So there is something to be said for that brand awareness, that people see you on lead portals and then they go. There are different ways to approach lead portals. You can negotiate most of them down. But you're gonna look at anywhere between $35 and $65 a lead. The more qualified ones are gonna be $65. You're gonna get less quantity, but more quality. Something like a FBR, not FPG, IFA, those that aren't technically lead portals but have that option. For the franchise gators and such, I think right now they're probably at $45 a lead. You can talk them down. Tier 2, we're getting into the broker networks. And now I know I'm with IFPG, but I'm very known for being completely blunt and completely frank about everything. So I always recommend that this is on your tier 2, because for the brokers, they need the support of your nice website, your Google, your social ads, because when they're working with candidates, candidates are going to search you on their own. And they're going to want to see that the proof is in the pudding. So if you don't have tier 1 and you're just saying, hey, IFPG, go sell my shit, they're going to be like, okay, with what? With one piece of collateral? You're not going to be successful with a broker network like that. So tier 2, you're now getting into your broker networks. We all know that broker networks are a little more pricey. They're taking a big cut off the top. So I always recommend that if you are going to do broker networks, you're going to do them well, meaning you're going to monitor them. You're going to have the collateral that they recommend. You're going to be talking to brokers. You're going to go to the retreats. You're going to engage with them. Because it is, again, almost like you're selling your brand to the brokers. Why should they take their candidates who they care deeply about and pass them to your brand if they don't really know your brand? They need to trust you. They need to know your numbers inside out. And the only way that they're going to get to know that is with you. It's not their job to learn it on their own. It's your job to educate them. So there's my little stint about success of broker networks. Also, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. We did not see leads close, and we were with every broker network across the sun for at least a year. Mind you, it was just me trying to do that with 12 brands. But once we kind of got in a rhythm and people started seeing us, the territory checks started flowing in, and we were then able to gain momentum. But please do not think that a broker network is like a lead portal. You turn it on and leads flow in. It does take a lot of time. Next is trade shows. Before you come at me when I say don't do trade shows, let me preface this by saying trade shows are very good in certain situations for certain industries. If you are just doing a trade show to get a lead, doesn't matter where, just seemed like a good big show, I usually recommend you instead would have taken that 7 to 20K and pushed it into digital, because you're going to get a lot more leads that way than, at a very geo-segmented trade show in which probably the majority of your leads might not come to fruition. Now, if you are looking in a regional area, your specific industry, and maybe it's a multi-unit opportunity, trade shows can be great. But you need to also take into account what is the ROI you're looking for. Are you really needing in this area? Are you really needing, a couple sold, or are you just doing it because you need leads? And if that is the case, I highly then recommend putting that money into digital, because it's trackable, it's retargetable, and quite frankly, you can get more bang for your buck. The other thing coming on tier 2, connected TV. These are the ads you now see on Hulu, on Amazon. I see CertaPro, Huntington Learning, a whole bunch of brands under the sun doing connected TV. It used to be a 25 to 40K buy-in. That is no more. You can run connected TV very, very targeted, down to the zip code, for very, very little money. Almost, ridiculously low amounts. I don't want to blurt out a number here and be wrong, but it's affordable even for the newest of new brands, if that gives you an idea. So definitely don't count out CTV because it doesn't have the traditional costs of cable or Sirius radio, and it's going to be highly effective as well. The last two are your mailers, your other print media, your media buys. Maybe you're buying the entrepreneur banner, you're doing a conversion mailer, you're sending out magazines, whatever have you. That's going to be brand awareness specific. There is nothing out there that I can really tie back to great lead generation that is one of these kind of print or media buys. And I've tested them. So yeah, we were paying, I think at one point, $8,000 a month to take over the entrepreneur top franchises list with our banner ads for men in kilts, like a fun brand you want to click on. And we saw maybe a handful of leads over 3 months. So that should give you kind of an example of what you're looking at there. Brand awareness, great. Lead generation, can't really tie it back to it. Lastly, your referral offers and your co-ops. A referral offer meaning if someone refers a franchisee to you, if your current franchisees refer one of their friends to you, what are they getting in return? Give them a nice incentive to do that, because typically your most successful franchisees are friends with another person who's going to be a successful franchisee. So that is a great way to also tap into your networks. Sometimes people do co-op mailers with their franchise system, meaning on any direct mailer they send out, they say, oh, franchise opportunities available, and then part of their media or their print buy is covered by the brand fund. That can get complicated, but it is something you can do. I did talk to a brand once and they said, hey, every advertisement we do is a Fran Dev advertisement, because again, it is the brand. People are going to search you, and if you're doing what you need to do on tier 1, then you can take advantage of just your logo and your national marketing. I also like to say, remember to keep your consumer marketing programs tight. Make sure that you are abreast to anything that's going on in terms of what the creative your franchises are using, what you're recommending they spend, making sure they're spending, because again, like I said, every advertisement is a franchise development advertisement, and when people are searching you, you want to make sure that Luann from Texas, who decided to change your brand from purple to green, is not the first thing that comes up. So make sure you're policing your franchise to an extent. Okay, so next. We've got that. Now we have our foundations. We're ready to sell. We've got marketing. Top of the funnel is filling. Now how do we get them to sign? So this is what I say the candidates need to continue down the pipeline. First response. Please set expectations in writing and make a plan for your team. So for instance, they get an automated email as soon as they submit. Now you want to say, thanks for submitting. We'll get back to you within 24 to 48 business days, or we'll get back to you within 24 hours. A lot of times these come in at the end of the day, on weekends, when people have time outside of their regular job to search for new opportunities. If that's the case, speed to lead is important. We all know that. The quicker you're able to get back to someone when they're ready to go, the better your chances are of them taking the next step. So now you want to make a plan for your Fran Dev team, because ideally they are contacting them quickly, but that's also could be out of business hours. It could be on the weekends. So is there a flexible way for you to work with them so that they're on top of what they need to do and technically helping themselves with these leads to, have better connections and move quicker through the pipeline for their commissions, potentially if you're on a commission structure. Maybe they're coming in later. Maybe they're allotting their hours on the weekend. So maybe, I don't know, maybe a Wednesday's slow and they can take off early. Something like that, just because it is typically, we see a lot of this outside of business hours if you are getting back to people on a very quick basis. If you're setting the expectations for business hours, then this is a moot point. But I just wanted to call to make that a point, because I do see that a lot with brands. Second is email drips. So the easiest thing I can say when it comes to email drips is, one, never put a date on anything in your email drips. And two, there is a difference between your salesperson emails and your marketing drips. Your sales drips, if you want to call them that, or your emails are the communications that are coming from the salesperson or the Fran Dev person directly to the candidate. They're talking back and forth. Maybe they get automated emails about next steps. That is not marketing play at all. That is your just regular have to do sales emails. Outside of that, you should be putting these candidates into an email drip, which is just marketing material. And when I say don't put a date on anything, unless it's a press release, you don't want to create more work for yourself by saying, say in this email I said, in 2022, one of the best parts about franchising was because emails are a pain in the ass and email drips take effing forever. So you're probably not going to go back and edit that copy all of the time. So as you're putting people into a marketing email drip, make sure the copy is something that can last a long time, that can speak, be timeless, be classic, stays true to your mission, work-life balance, great for veterans, great for retirement, whatever it is. That is what kind of your marketing emails should be. It should be less about how great you are and more about the greatness that you are going to be able to provide for the candidates. So I worked with a place at home a couple years back and they said, Maddie, our email drips are not converting. And I read through their email drips and it was, we are so great because of this. We have this, we have that. And it was outstanding because they are a fabulous franchise and a fabulous industry. But I said, hey, we need to tweak the copy so it's, we are an award-winning franchise because we provide help for others. And this is why it would be great for your community. Here's what owning a senior care business can do for your life style, building your own schedule, that sort of thing. So make it less about, I'm so great, I'm so great, I'm so great, and more about, I'm great because it provides you this. And immediately we saw a 30% increase in calls to action simply because we turned it from franchise to candidate. Now, I typically tell people if you're going to do a drip, you should have a cadence of wait a week, send an email, wait 2 weeks, send the next email, then wait a week, then wait 2 weeks. A week long, every week, it can get monotonous and then people start to disregard. Maybe once a week and then again 2 weeks, have a great subject line. Typically, we saw a much lower unsubscribe or spam rate doing that. And the great thing about making sure there is no dates and that this is truly marketing content. Watch the testimonials, learn more, check out the cost section on our website. Schedule a call to ask if you're ready for this discount, whatever it may be, is that if people were dropping out of the pipeline, they could still get this email and just see how great the brand is. Maybe they want to come back, maybe they want to come out of limbo. If someone went through the process and became a franchisee, they're still getting these emails going, hell yeah, that's my franchise, baby. So it really didn't matter whether people were opting out or not opting out, but becoming unqualified or in limbo, or making it all the way through a franchisee, the content still applied. Now what you can do if you're saying, Maddie, I got that on lock, now you want to go into your personas. So now you're creating, you have a general email drip, everyone goes into it. Now you can start building out your personas based on the types of people that you see buying your franchise. At Made Pro, we eventually had the entrepreneur, the person looking for work-life balance, person who hated corporate, your retirement job, you're a veteran, you're converting your business, you're international, you're a first responder. And you can build out email drips that specifically speak to their wants, their needs, their lifestyles, and then switch people. So once we had some of those built out, we then said, here are some major persona qualifiers that when the salesperson hears them say this, they know, oh, I can now switch them in our CRM. We had HubSpot, Salesforce, whatever it is, but we used HubSpot. We can now say, okay, move from general to retired, and it would automatically switch them into a drip that was more targeted to what that person was looking for. So an example of a persona qualifier can be like, I hate corporate. I hate my boss. I'm a veteran. I want to make it to my kids' soccer games. I want to build something of my own. So we had about 3 or 4 persona qualifiers for each one to help the sales development people. So when they heard them, they knew to switch it. Sales development people, their job is to sell. Their job is not to target market. So just make it as easy as possible for them. Instead of saying, oh, you'll know, just give it to them written out. And if you don't have time to do that, or if you're confused, email me. I'll send you the template. We covered that. Have the tangibles. My love language is gifting. When people send me gifts, I go through the roof. I think Generator Supercenter, shout out Glenn, sent me some Generator Supercenter shirts, and my kids were literally running around the house in Generator Supercenter shirts. Do I have a generator? No. Do I love the swag? Yes. So even if people might not buy from you or they drop out, having something that people can have and wear as an advertisement for your brand is always going to be a plus. And then when you do have the qualified candidates, they're going to be, loudly and proudly wearing those, Lululemon zip ups, their sweatshirts, their hats to their friends and family, showing them off, giving them out. This is now my business. Swag goes a long way. And then also keep up with current brand events. I had never put press releases in email drips because of the dated content, but what you can do is have a separate kind of group that you say everyone in the qualified that is still qualified or in the pipeline, in the broker networks, however they're tagged in your CRM, would get press releases via an email push. So not a drip, but a push. And it was more targeted to their email and less like, oh, if they see it on Google when something great happens. So definitely don't forget to do that, but I usually recommend not putting it in a regular drip. Okay, I have 7 minutes to get through this and then we will talk about questions. Okay, so now sales. Here is what the candidates want when you come down to it. Now, they're through the first step, they're in their nurture, they're being marketed to. How does sales successfully close them and make sure they're closing the right people? The first and foremost is have a strict sales process. Know exactly the process you want them to go through. First phone call, then they're going to meet with the marketing team, then they're going to talk to an exec, and then they're going to have their validation calls, and then they're coming in for a discovery day. We want maximum 8 to 10 days in between and moving them through quickly. Granted, it's a big decision and people are not going to move as fast as you want them to, but if you set average parameters around that, or strict parameters around the average it takes most people to move through, then it's not the wild west and someone saying, oh, well, it's been 3 months and they're still not ready to commit to step 2. If they're not at least following in a rough range of that, then they're not going to be qualified. They need to be moved to limbo. Your salesperson needs to be focused on other leads that are coming in. Have a strict sales process. Next, same thing for a discovery day. Make sure your discovery day is down to the minute. They're flying in, they're meeting with X, Y, and Z, then they're doing a tour, then we're having lunch, then we're going to scorecard them and lead them out the door. So, making sure your discovery day and your sales process is smooth and basically a first example of how buttoned up your processes and procedures are in your franchise. This is their first look at what being a part of a franchise can be like. The support, the system, the proven processes, they've been there, done that, they know what they're doing. And that's when they're going to get a feel of it. And you're going to get a feel for them too. If they're saying, I don't want to meet with those people, I want to go do this. Like, all right, well, this is the model, so this is what we're going to do. And they're saying no, and then you're going to be like, you're going to be a terrible franchisee. So it's another way to kind of see how they are able to follow instruction as well. Secondly, sales script. Make sure your sales development people are finding out where did they find you, and not just asking, hey, where'd you come about? And they're like, oh, I saw you online. Make sure it gets asked multiple times through the process, because just like a deposition, you ask people enough times in a couple different ways, eventually you're going to get the truth. And this is even better because people aren't going to jail. So you can really kind of get, oh, no, yeah, I said I saw you online, but what I meant was my friend sent me an an Instagram of one of your stores, and then, you know, I looked you guys up on your Instagram, and then I saw that you guys could buy stores, and that, you know, that sort of thing. So eventually it's going to come across, they found us through consumer marketing and then went to our Instagram page and converted off that landing page. So make sure they're asking multiple times, maybe a couple different ways through the process. Find out what your average obstacles are. People worried that COVID's going to happen and restaurants are going to shut down. People worried that this brand is too trendy and it's going to go down. People worried about leases. People worried about employment. Find those average obstacles and create talk tracks around them so that your sales development, or maybe someone else in that talks to, you know, your potential candidates, knows, you know, what to say to coach this person through the obstacle of why you understand it could be, you know, a stopping point, but the support you have to help them get around that if they so choose. Those are also kind of limbo movers. What about the person that says, oh, well, I'm waiting for my loan to come through. I'm waiting for my loan to come through. And they're working with this bank that you've never heard of. Have your vetted bank partners and lending partners ready to go. So you're saying, hey, Allie over at Benetrends, here's a franchise. Please get me, you know, the paperwork they need. And she's going, sure, bang, bang, done. Because you already have that process in place for them. So now it's no longer, I didn't get my loan. Now it's either I got my loan, let's go, or oh yeah, I got funding, I'm not sure. So now you can kind of understand where people are in limbo, if it's true, out of their control, or something that they're just dragging their feet on. Same thing with the resources, providing people resources that they need, whether it's educational in the industry, it's vendor partnerships, whatever it may be, make sure that you have them. I would say that. Secondly, thirdly, removing the bottlenecks. So we had a CEO who was like, I am going to be on every one of these franchise development calls after they get through, you know, step 3. I want to get on the phone call with them. Do you know how difficult it is to get a CEO on all of these phone calls? Terrible. So eventually we had to you know, make a scheduling where his schedule was always blocked off from 3 to 5 on Thursdays. He knew he couldn't schedule anything or go anywhere because whether it was booked or not, that is when the Fran Dev calls were going to be booked for him. There's no more chasing schedules around. The next thing, you know, incentivizing, you know, is this commission for your team, you know, making sure that they have some skin in the game as well. Same thing with, you know, the referral partners. Also, you know, for your validations, we're a big franchise and my husband and I get so many validation calls every month. And while we are happy to do that for our franchisor, it's very time consuming. These calls can go in depth. They can go over an hour long. So it's always nice sometimes when our franchisor sends us a swag bag, says, hey, we appreciate you. Here's some lunch on us. You know, little things here and there that could remove potential bottlenecks of, I'm not taking any more validation calls. It's too much right now. You know, that sort of thing. A lot of times bottlenecks come from trust. People get scared that they don't, or their Fran Dev team doesn't trust someone with a lead because either they're afraid it's not going to get done, it's not going to get done right, they're going to say something wrong. So work with your team on building trust to help remove those bottlenecks and streamline your sales process. And lastly, have a scorecard and coach your team on saying no. So one of the big things that we did was, you know, people can be very subjective when it comes to whether or not they like someone. We had a scorecard that detailed out, you know, I think it was like 1 to 5. Is this person a culture fit? Is this person display people characteristics? And anyone who met with them on discovery day had to fill out a scorecard. Anything under a certain number was an automatic no. Anything above a certain number was an automatic yes. And then the in-betweens were up for discussion. And, you know, ultimately you had a final say from, you know, someone on the exec team. And also, you know, it's something to be said too, that I think I talked to Ashley at Streamline about this, and she said, Fran Dev people don't get a vote on these days because if they're already getting to a discovery day, they should already be a yes in their book. This is not to say they did a bad job if they get to this point and they said no, but there's so many different reasons, you know, for that, which is why we use the scorecard. But it also helps because Fran Dev people typically get commission, and for them, they also understand of the work they put in, and if they say no, that's their commission out the door. So that is something you need to have a conversation around, be very transparent and upfront about. And now, right now, we're seeing the average cost per acquisition for low to mid-level investments. So I'm talking, the low cost all the way up to maybe $1 million buy-in. That's kind of the threshold. We're looking at about 28,000 on average to spend per new location. So that, definitely something you want to keep in mind as you're building out your goals. And please remember that while you're building out your goals, if you say you want 60 units next year because 60 is a great goal and you saw it in a dream and you knew as soon as you sold 60 in a year, you were going to pop a bottle of Dom, remember that 60 is probably going to be times 28,000. Do you have that in your budget to spend? Make sure you understand that this works just the same as consumer. Cost per lead, cost per acquisition. There's a lot of ways to break it down and build your budget backwards so that you can understand the level of investment it's going to take to open new units. If you have a question about building budgets, I also would be happy to talk to you about it. I had to figure it out from the ground up, and your girl can't do math. So I'm happy to talk with you about that as well. And then analytics, I'm going to talk for 3 more minutes and then leave it 5 minutes for questions. Stay up to date with your actuals and monthly and by outlet. Holistically, it's good to see your cost per lead and acquisition, but the more you can drill down, the better you'll be. So what I mean by that is, yeah, on average, you can look at your spends and say, okay, for the last 6 months, we spent $60,000 and we got 600 leads. But that doesn't really tell me too much. What I want to drill down is what makes a lead qualified. What I typically recommend is someone that has an over a certain budget. So once they have, their first qualifying call, do they have over 75,000? Boom, that makes them qualified. It's switched to qualified in your CRM. Anything under that, unqualified. So now you can see how much did I spend? How many leads did I get? Of those 600 leads, 300 of them were qualified. So now you're looking at $60,000 and 300 leads that were actually qualified. Now, if you keep up with your actuals, you can break those down by outlet, lead portal, exactly what lead portal, Google spend, social spend, and you can see how many leads came from each and how many of those leads were qualified. And of those qualified leads, who moved forward to acquisition. So now you can start moving your budget around and say, I'm going to take less. I'm going to take more from social because they seem to just be not moving through the pipeline. Going to keep them on because they did produce leads, but I'm going to push more of the budget towards Google because the people that were coming from Google were moving farther in the pipeline and closing, that sort of thing. So moving your money around and optimizing. And then, yeah, so you can kind of see where the leads came from, yada, yada, yada. And I always recommend at least 3 months to see if something's working or not working. It is not enough to run it for 3 weeks. It's not enough to run it for a month for franchise development. You need to run a campaign for at least 3 months, whether it's with a lead portal, a Google ad, what have you. That's going to give you enough data to then make educated decisions on where to move your budget. It should never be off or on. It should be money moved around budget-wise via the tier 1 portals that I talked about, or tier 1 and tier 2. It should never be on or off. It works or it doesn't work. That's not how Fran Dev works these days. So that is my talking track on what's working in Fran Dev, what everyone else is doing. Here are some of our leaders that have had some great advice over the past couple of weeks that I've spoken with. And I also like to do a quick tip on if you are really focused on geo-targeting for franchise development, it actually works opposite that it does with consumer. With consumer, you can then drill all of your money down into one target market and your leads are going to spike in that specific market. Opposite is true for franchise development. The more targeted you get and the more money it doesn't matter how much money you throw, throw $1 million into Dallas, Texas, your lead flow is going to be very slow and you're going to need a lot of patience. Why? The search volume is simply not there. So if you're really focused on selling in a certain market, I recommend an area takeover, which does include Google PPC, but you're not filtering your whole budget there. You're saying, here's some of the budget. Now I'm going to do advertisements. guerrilla advertisements. So we're going to do some billboards. We're going to run some CTV. I'm going to sponsor, the local pastry. So we're going to go all over Dallas or all over wherever it is, and we're going to take over that area for 3 months. And you will see a lot more maybe we'll do a trade show. We're going to do a lot more traction there than instead of trying to funnel $10,000 into only Dallas PPC and social media, just because, like I said, a search volume. So that is that. I mentioned a lot about connecting with me for any of these materials, any question. I swear to God, I am not trying to sell you. NetSertive knows that. Like, I am all about building community because I've been in your shoes. I am a Z. And of course, if you do need help with FranDev, NetSertive does it. I run point on it. I do not get commission from new candidates, nothing like our clients, nothing like that. But we'd be willing to, we'd be more than willing to see, I've clearly talked too much, more than willing to talk with you through this and help you out in any way. So connect with me on LinkedIn. I post about this stuff all the time. Shoot me an email. And of course, we are IFPG members, so I hope to see you at one of these events. And if you have any questions, throw them into the chat now, because I've left a mere 3 minutes for you guys to do so.
No worries. There's one question here. What specific message do you recommend using on Facebook and Instagram ads?
So the message needs to be very clear. It needs to be something that starts off with business opportunity or buy a business, turnkey business, and then your franchise name. The copy needs to be very long. It needs to be Made Pro Franchise is a franchise built on, whatever your mission is, for flexible schedule, great lifestyle, recurring revenue. And then you're going to go into the benefits, and then you're going to go into kind of that learn more. But at the very top, you need to say, investment level required $75,000. So they know off the grip that this is a business opportunity that's going to cost $75,000. You cannot kind of do that bait and switch. Buy a business. We're so great. It's awesome. It's great for your community. And then expect people to then understand that it's a lot of money, because honestly, people are stupid. I'm stupid. I would be like, I'll take a business for $50. No. So, business, turnkey business, Made Pro Franchise, minimum investment level required 75,000. Here's your mission, here's your top benefits, and then it clicks through to a learn more, which is a landing page in brief. I can also send you some more copy points as well.
Awesome. That was a really great presentation. Thank you, Madeline. Those are all the questions that we have right now. If anyone wants to pop anything in real quick, go ahead. But if you have any closing statements you'd like to share, you can do that now, Madeline.
No, I would just say thanks to everyone for hanging in and hearing my very frank session on franchise development. And please connect with me. And I hope to see all of you in person soon.
Awesome. Thank you again. And thank you to everyone who attended. And I hope you all enjoy your evening.
Thanks.